Let's talk about some of the entrepreneurial. How do you translate caring about others into actually having a profitable enterprise? Because
Mhm.
you need to negotiate, you need to work with the city, you need to do all kinds of stuff to do the things that you're doing. You have to sell, you have
Yeah.
to market, you have to position yourself, you have to, hire teams and delegate and lead and all of this sort of stuff. So I'd love for you to speak to some of the smartest things that you have done when it comes to, because when you said earlier it just sort of happened, well, that means you didn't you enrolled a lot of people,
Yeah.
and you don't strike me as a what's the terminology, command and control versus what's Stephen R. Covey's newest book called Trust and Inspire.
Mhm.
The whole trust and inspire leadership and command and control. And for me, like wartime versus peacetime, that Ben Horowitz article written over a decade ago, there are times in the world where there's peacetime and there's wartime, and there's different strategies that we have to deal with depending on the challenges and difficulties. So I'm not one of these people that's like, it's always kumbaya and just be sweet. And, sometimes, you have to get off your ass and deal with some heavy stuff. Other times, things are good. And then there's fair weather friends, where people are, being nice and sweet and wonderful when everything's going well. But then when you're in a real desperate, difficult challenge, people change, and then you really know who has your back and who doesn't. So
Mhm.
I just want to go back to, like, give some entrepreneurial strategies that have served you well, because everyone here and most people listening, that's the world they live in. They only survive if they produce a result.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'm not formally trained as an entrepreneur. I didn't even know that I was an entrepreneur until I started my own business and became one. Now, in reality, I always have been. I started stringing tennis rackets when I was 13 years old and bought a machine and had a business. And a ton of other examples like that along the way. I just didn't identify as an entrepreneur. Maybe, in part because I was a horrible student and couldn't pay attention, disassociating and all the things from childhood. So I didn't identify as smart. And so I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I never saw myself as having skills in that way. And so, that's why I say, like, I feel like, a lot of it's just been made up. And the truth is, I've had to learn how to become the kind of leader I want to be. And mostly everything I've done has come from doing that inner work, including how I've become a successful entrepreneur. And so when I first started my business, I was sort of a yeller and screamer and yelling at contractors and making a big stink when things weren't going well, because that's who I was. But I've learned that's not who I am. It's not who I want to be. And so I've, yeah, had amazing people that have really helped. I keep coming back to this theme of, your life serving you. And so there's a lot of stuff that I took on as a kid that actually did serve me really well at that time. Right.
Right.
So this idea that, was instilled in me that you needed to be successful, that you needed to work hard, that you needed to be a man, make money, have a good reputation. There was like a lot of noise around that. Actually, it did serve me well for a period of time. I used that energy to create and to build a business and to be successful and to make money and do all those things. I had to realize after having them that that wasn't really as important as I thought it was. And I'll tell you that I think from an entrepreneurial standpoint, the skill that I think has been most helpful for us, that might be helpful for people in the room, is we have tried to make sure with everything that we've done from the start, and everything from from a culture standpoint, from a real estate standpoint, that we would push the envelope, but not so much that we wouldn't live to do it again. And so it was constantly like, how do we push this as far as we possibly can, but get a bank to sign off on it, to get investors to invest in it, to return capital and make everybody money so that we could do it again and push a little bit further the next time. And so that has been the one entrepreneurial, mindset that I think we've focused on is a lot of people come out, they want to change the world. You see these, utopian projects that are being announced in Costa Rica and all kinds of stuff that just never gets built. we're building things. We've built, here just in this neighborhood, it's 12 acres. There's almost 2,000 people living here. It's 500,000 square feet of commercial and retail space. We're building things that are actually coming to life, hopefully making a difference so that we can do the next one even better.
So, I mean, how, in the next 10 years, what do you envision yourself building or creating or at least being a catalyst for?
Yeah, I think my interest is shifted less in the physical realm and more in the, what we call the inner space. So, I'm that's why I've kind of shifted to the podcast. I'm writing a book, Nick's here filming a documentary, um, and investing in other people. The real estate will be the real estate, and it's going to continue to live on. What we're hoping to do is take gravity and our new greenhouse concept and scale them across the country. And so that's our long-term plan. Me personally, my unique ability at this point is really investing, connecting, co-creating, and less in the day-to-day nuts and bolts of the real estate. You get to a point, you can only make the building so sexy. You keep trying, you want it to be, something that people really feel good about. But at the end of the day, it's a lot more satisfying for me to actually try to help other people directly.
Yeah. What does gravity stand for in the context here? Why'd you name it that?
Yeah, it was a name that was gifted to me by a friend who many of you know, Christopher Celeste, who I was connecting with on a project. He had an idea, a white paper that he was calling Gravity, and I had this idea about building a community. And his white paper was about connecting and belonging. And we're just good friends, and he's an investor. And at one point, we used to argue about the importance of words and names. I never valued them. I never really thought it mattered. I thought you could name something, Google, and it was really a matter of what was underneath it that mattered. And he's comes from a marketing background, and just had a strong belief in words mattering and names mattering. And so yeah, he gave me Gravity, and it's become something that I never expected, and it's shifting into all kinds of things that neither of us ever imagined.
Right. So everyone here, for the most part, has to create a culture, and they have to create meaning. They have to sell that meaning to others. They have to enroll people into it, or there's a lot of challenges. So the whole concept of culture, which I have done quite a few interviews with people on the subject of culture, some that have built, billion-dollar companies. And culture is kind of funny because, the first four letters are cult, right? So everything, though, has a bit of a culture to it. So does this place.
Mhm.
So how do you, what are sort of the under the surface things that are happening that most people would not know about, that go through your head, that with your leadership team or whatever you call the people that help you do this, how do you think about it all?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. The cult thing is funny. I think about Chip Wilson, right?
Yeah.
When we first started our company, we had everybody, it was optional, but you kind of encouraged to go to Landmark Forum. I know Chip also, and that becomes your culture, and people sometimes think it's a cult. But for us, I think that we like to say we hire on passion, skill, effort. And so everybody that is in our culture shares a passion for what we're doing and works hard and is skilled at what they do. And, for me, again, no, not an expert in culture, but I think we have a really great culture at Coffin Development, at Gravity, and it's because of the people. At the end of the day, if you have people that are here because of a shared vision and shared values, that is your culture. And so, hopefully what you see here, we say Gravity is about well-being, creative expression, and impact. Greenhouse is about well-being, nature, and transformation. And so every person that's in this community that works for us, at least for sure, has to embody that. And that's, what's coming out and hopefully what people are feeling and seeing and experiencing. And, again, for some people, we're just an apartment, they just
Right.
think it's cool. They like the art and, they don't know or care about any of that. And that's fine too. We like to think that that person eventually stumbles into somebody or something. And, we have a transcendental meditation center here, and maybe somebody comes to an introduction and who knows where their life goes from there.
That's so you have people certifying people or training TM here.
Yeah. We have an instructor who full time, that's what he does. Comes from the TM center and has, made his whole life in that world. And yeah, he's here and does introductions and teaching and tune ups or whatever they call it,
Right.
And yeah, he's awesome. And that's, available for anybody.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool. Well, the reason I bring that up, I got trained in TM in 2013 in Fairfield, Iowa, where the Maharishi University is and everything. And I could never meditate my entire life until I actually went through the TM training. So, and if I would have downloaded every app on the planet, I still would have never until that. So that's actually really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone here do TM? Even know what we're talking about here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, handful, yeah, about 5 or 6 people. Cool. All right, well, you're going to sign up after this. So let's talk about investments, because that's one of your main things. You're an investor, okay? So you've got Kaufman Development. You have a new platform dedicated to elevating companies that benefit humanity. And so my question is, what criteria do you use to identify such companies? And what role do you believe conscious investing plays in shaping a more, socially responsible and sustainable future? Yeah, speak about how you think about investments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about investments for better or worse, because it's been a learning curve for me. I think a lot of people who invest think that because they're successful in one thing, they're going to be successful in another. And, I probably fell in that category. So I've had my fair share of losses, but I love to invest in other people because it's much easier to multiply your impact, at least potentially, by doing it on the backs of other people that are willing to do good and hard work. There's only so much you can do yourself. And so, it's a way for me to kind of multiply the impact. And I use like a very stupid, simple filter, which is sort of just my own. It's not, I'm investing privately, so I don't have to account for other investors. It's not like we have a fund where everybody's got to buy in on returns. I've tried that and found that takes the fun out of it for me. I want to be able to just put money into something and not really be too worried about the return. So my filter is like, is this good for humanity? Whatever it is. And it could be a food, could be a beverage, it could be a real estate, it could be anything, technology. Like at the end of the day, because this exists, are people better off? And so that's my filter. I want to invest in people that I believe share vision and values, that really actually give a shit about creating something that's going to actually make a difference in other people's lives. I generally believe that should be for profit, because I think that's the only way that I've seen where you can attract the best talent, where you can get the smartest people to go out and create things that solve problems for other people. That's why I like investing. We do a lot of nonprofit work as well. But generally I've found that the for-profit world is the best way to actually solve real world problems.
When you have, I'm really asking this for almost everything I ask is for myself. I say this a lot, a lot of my male friends that have not been willing to do deep therapy or deal with some of their issues, what many of them do is they just start a podcast. And then, they just ask people questions. They get smart people. Everyone thinks they know their shit, and they don't realize that, behind the Instagram following and everything else, there's this deep narcissism that requires attention and stuff anyway. So, when you have some of your investments or things you've put together require dozens, many dozens, hundreds of people in order to get stuff done. And my interest is like when things start going sideways or you're involved in something that there's millions of dollars on the line and shit starts going sideways. what are some indicators? Because,
Mm.
and I'll ask it in this way. When I had the most pain in my life, I not only ignored red flags, I didn't even notice the yellow flags
Mm.
when it came to people. And so now I don't just look for red flags, I look for yellow flags before they turn into red flags, right?
Mhm.
And so when things start becoming extremely difficult, what are some indicators or things that your spidey senses have developed over the years that would be really good to share with people that have helped either get you out of trouble? And I say this knowing that most of the things we've learned is because we're in the pot of hell, and then we had to figure out, like, what do we do now, right? How do we get through this? So I'd be curious to see what, how you guide and direct the ship that's going in the wrong direction or starts sinking.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, it's funny, when you say that you ask this, for yourself and the podcast thing. I might be like an extreme narcissist and just not willing to admit it, but everything that I've ever created has been because I saw that there was something that I wanted myself in the world. And so I just created it. And I've always told myself, at least, that if I wanted it, so did other people. And I found that to be true. So I don't think that it's actually narcissistic. You ask questions like that because you're probably not the only person that's curious about it. So, anyways, from an investment standpoint, one of the other things that I've done, and again, like none of this is, I kind of keep emphasizing, I'm not technically trained as an investor. I think that works to my benefit. I think if you look at the venture capitalists who have this fixed mindset of driving valuation and all this shit that, is not working right now, I'm glad that I don't have the Silicon Valley training. I come at it from a way that feels very aligned with who I am. And so one of the things that I've done, and I've had to learn this, is I never put too much money into any one thing, because I want to be able to tell the founder the truth about what I think they should be doing, regardless of whether that means I'm going to lose money. I want to be able to not care if it's getting fucked up. I don't want to be upset by it. It really defeats the purpose for me. I have to go in there knowing that there's a good chance the money's going to go away. Now, I mean, one thing I've learned the hard way is whenever a founder does like a bridge round, say no, because that usually means that they're, running out of money and they don't have another round, and, you're getting into super risky territory. I've had to learn that the hard way. I've also had to learn that people will disappoint you. They will be dishonest with you. They will do things in desperate times that are pretty disappointing. And that's part of it too. You just have to know that you're dealing with flawed individuals who are going to, do things that you wish they wouldn't do. But again, you try to mitigate that by, just limiting your exposure.